and it just launched the truck into the air sideways and just went boom and rolled. The explosion of fire literally took the oxygen out of the air. And I'll never forget that feeling, the sound, and the heat.
It's story time. We're here with Darren Parsons, and who are you? Where are we at?
Washed up 1450 racer at Sand Sports Show next to my clapped out 93 Ford Ranger.
Perfect. Let's get into it. I would like to talk about the Ranger fire.
Okay.
I want to know what that day was like for you, and then the aftermath. But I would love to know leading up to that, and then
Yeah, it's LS Fest. Like we do it every year. I've had the honor of creating the off-road spectrum for LS Fest West. I got contacted with the opportunity 5 years ago this year, and yeah, it's just we go out there and we set up a little, like probably 3/4 mile long course, and it's just fun. You know, we go out there and literally throw jam sessions down on this course, and you know, it's really been at that point, it was really a fun thing for like an opportunity for other people to hop in and take rides and like see off-road, and like industry people, like leaders of Chevrolet, leaders of High Performance, leaders of different big name companies would go out there and hop in our trucks and we'd show them what off-road's about, because where they're from, like, you know, the spectrum of these kind of performance vehicles is so small. And so for them to be able to come out and experience it was crazy. So they would go out there and they'd line up and we'd take them out. And it was amazing. It was really cool. It's always been a really cool thing. Well, these people, the Max family, they came out from Texas, and I had taken, we'd done racing for the day. It was over with. And we were just doing some mess around, literally. Riding laps out there. And we had Max, the owner of Max Performance in Texas, and he had contacted us about coming out. Super cool dude. Brought us out gallons of sweet tea, brought out his sweet pre-runner. It was not crazy enough to run our course, but he still was out all about it, wanted to be a part of it, the whole thing. And so I took him for a ride, and he's like, please, will you take my wife for the ride? I'm like, sure, I don't care, whatever. We were in there, and I talked to her real quick. I'm like, you know, like, you've done this kind of thing before, you know, put your seatbelts on and stuff. She's like, yeah, I race UTVs. I'm like, cool, all right, she's good. So go out there, we're doing some laps, and like literally like it was like exhibition racing. So I was racing against Michael Cox actually for that race, and we raced whatever, and I had beat him by a little bit and finished. And off as I was coming into the finish, the truck was just at a full drift coming up to this like 65-foot finish double. And right at the lip, I just kind of carried the drift all the way up to the lip. And I didn't get it all the way snapped off before we went off to takeoff. And the truck just snapped back the other way in the air as the transition of force just kind of went in the other direction. I landed and I swapped over the other way. And I turned into it and like hit the gas. And I wasn't even honestly thinking anything was going to happen besides maybe possibly spinning out. And there's this gnarly 3-foot berm for where they dug out to build the landing. I just flipped that as I was trying to turn in and hit the gas, and it just launched the truck into the air sideways and just went boom and rolled. And I was like, oh shit, I'd never wrecked that hard. I've only flopped the truck a couple times to that point. I was like, all right, that was a good one. I reached down, turned the power, or I hit the power in the air. Like engine was off like all the way as we were in the air. Came to stop, hit the rest of the switches off, flipped off the power, and I literally had like a moment of like, all right, cool, we're good. And so we go to hop out. All right, and I go to hop out, and the truck's on its side. I take my seatbelts off, and I go out the top. And I'll never forget, like, as I was getting the seatbelts off, the wind got taken out of me. It was literally like the explosion of fire literally took the oxygen out of the air. And I'll never forget that feeling, the sound, and the heat, like the whole combination of that, because we're in such a small space, and it came through the back of the truck and just literally pulled the air out of the cab. And I'm like, all right, I'm out the truck. And I was literally standing out the truck looking down at her, and she's screaming and like full panic, not even trying to take her seatbelts off. I'm like, so I went back down in the truck and I grabbed her seatbelt latch and I pulled it, and I just put my arm behind her because her hair was literally on fire, and I just pushed her as hard as I could towards the front of the truck, which thankfully I'd just taken the windshield out because I'd been running the windshield up until that point, but it was so hot out, I took the windshield out.
Wow.
And I just literally threw her into the windshield, and she just went running out the windshield, and then I came out the top of the truck again like a goon, and my foot was all tangled up in my cords, and like I ended up hanging by my foot for a second. Larry Chen got the whole thing on camera. It was pretty crazy, and I mean, it was surreal, like watching the truck just burn up. And thankfully, like all my friends, you know, ran over fire extinguishers, and water truck came over and hit it. And like, I just was worried about her. Like I saw her hair on fire, so I was like, "Where the fuck's she at?" And I went and found her, and she was with her husband, and they were fine. And I was like, "Oh, cool!" I just remember giving her like the biggest hug. And the truck was pretty much out by that point. And I went back over there. I'm like, "All right, cool. Well, it's burnt up and wrecked." So stood up on top of it, did the whole thing, and everybody was losing their minds, and it was cool. I'm like, they flipped it back around. All right, cool. I'm gonna go pull over the trailer, and they're like, "You can't start this thing." And I'm like, "Well, why not?" It was just on fire, and I'm like, "It's kind of together still, and it's twisted, but it's fine. Like, it'll be okay." Like, you can't do that. And I think it was literally like the adrenaline thing, like wanting to get back on your dirt bike after you've like broken your leg or something. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, "It's fine. It'll be okay. Like, everything's gonna be fine. I can drive it. I can drive it on the trailer right now." And it's just like the natural thing. I want to pick my dirt bike up on the ground, off the ground, and kickstart and keep on going. And it definitely wasn't okay. It was pretty bad. And like, I don't know, they towed me out. Like, I don't know, it was probably the first time I ever cried, like over like an off-road anything at that point. Cause like, like as they're towing me around the track, I was thinking about like my wife and like my kid, and like, man, like that could have gone so bad. Like how quickly that turned, like how bad that could have went. It got pretty freaking deep there for a second. I could have killed some dude's wife, like, you know, because if I wouldn't have gotten her out of there, I don't know how bad she would have gotten burnt. Like, it was legitimate things. You start thinking about these things because it's like, I'm not like a yahoo. Like, I think of other people's lives when I'm driving my truck. Like, I'm not just sending my truck like blatantly. Like, I'm thinking about the other people. Like my worst case scenario when I'm driving off road is like, if I'm on an open desert and there's someone that comes across the trail in front of me, or I hit a kid, like I won't even go drive my truck on those big weekends. Like I hate going to Glamis because like you can't see much out of these things. You're so far back in them, the containment seats, everything about them doesn't promote vision. So you're scared a lot of the time. So it's like, I can't believe like that happened. It was such a deep feeling. And Larry Chen caught some deep moments with me after that, and then I was like, kind of like, I don't know. Honestly, I went back to my roots. Like I was like, all right, let's see if this damn thing will run. I literally just fired it up, and one of the fuel lines was completely smoked, so I capped it off, and I had 2 fuel lines. So I just swapped over to the other pump that wasn't burnt, and fired it up and backed it up, and I was like, well, cool, it's okay. Figured it out from there. Next morning, like, kind of woke up and like again kind of that eerie feeling, like, and I was like, let's go take it for a lap. So I started up and drove around the whole place, went around the track, and like, it's gonna be okay, like everything's gonna be okay. And then I got it home and I was like, it's not okay, it's bad. So we ended up cutting it up pretty much from like right under my butt back, got all cut off. And then I took it in to Eric Moore to have the Kate like address the other issues, and like he like lopped it off right here. That's not good enough. Cut it off right there. So it's all been redone at that point. And yeah, it's pretty much 95% new truck since that. The only thing that's left is the frame rail that it started with, and that front core support. That is the only thing that's left of this truck that's original. So it's pretty deep, but again, like, it just makes you think of things like responsibilities. Like, you're driving these things, you drive them off road. It took me a really long time just to even drive this truck in shorts and a t-shirt again after that, because you just gotta learn that trust again. It's a freak incident. ultimately what started the fire was the back of the truck hit so hard on the passenger side, it shifted the whole chassis of the truck in the back to the driver's side, which shifted the fuel cell. And when the fuel cell shifted, it popped the filler necks off. The fuel was dumping downward and hit on the brake calipers, which ignited in fire. I had just filled the truck up just before that run, just for that session. So we had like, at that time it was a mid-cell truck with a 32-gallon cell, and it literally had 32 gallons of fuel to feast off of. So that's when it went up. It's pretty crazy, but yeah.
It was wild to watch. I mean, just it obviously exploded all over social media as well, and it was crazy to see.
You always pay attention to your numbers and stuff as like a roll or whatever, and it's crazy to see like watch the views go from your profile from like average like 400 Ks to million and a half, 2 million. And I think honestly a lot of it was just like my response of like, hey, like I broke this thing. Like I literally took it home the next day. I cut the whole top of the truck off, cut the back of the truck off, and it was just like, it was my way of dealing with it.
Right.
It was just like, let's just keep on moving. We'll cut this thing up and redo it. And that's part of it. Now I think you have to have a little of that mentality in off-road for sure to keep it going. Break it, you wreck it. You gotta keep going.
Yeah, definitely. And you did. So you said obviously most of the truck is entirely brand new.
Yeah.
What is new? Can you break down the truck a little bit? I know there's like build biologies and all kinds of stuff, but maybe your highlights that you like about where the truck's at now.
Well, the biggest changes for the truck from where it was at before to now was the rear suspension. The rear suspension on the truck was utilized off the factory Ford frame rails. So there's never any kind of real integrity there. So when we redid it, I bought the Camber Kinetic trophy truck back half. So I literally took their whole lower half, trailing arms, upper links, rear housing, hubs, everything. I said, Camber Kinetic trophy truck from here back, underneath. And then I took Kibitech's rear design for his fuel cell, cradle for tires, all that. And all right, throw that at it. And then I took it to Eric Moore. He's the guy that originally built the truck. And I said, all right, now let's just connect the dots. And again, he didn't like the cage or anything. So he cut the cage out and made a whole new cage. That's all chromoly. It's heat treat. It's all done right now. And then he just connected the dots. This cab now just slides over basically and bolts on, which is something that was a good move as well, just to have the simplicity of that. And again, like, yeah, it was a good pivotal point to take the truck from being mostly a pre-runner to like a race truck. I wanted to go to the 40-inch tires. I needed to go to the bigger rear housing to be able to do that. I needed to get rid of that 4-link that was tied into the factory frame rails. And with wrecking it like that, it kind of opened up that opportunity. So again, you always got to find the positives. That was my positive. That situation was, all right, cool. Now I get to take this thing from a pre-runner to a racetrack.
It's awesome. It sounds good too, and it also spits fire now.
So that was like my ultimate comeback was like,
yeah.
you know, 8-in-1s, like they create a centrifugal pressure on the backside of the engine. Basically, like a compressor pulls the fuel through the engine. So what it does is it pulls a raw fuel that's not being burned out of the exhaust, and it'll ignite off the stainless and shoot out fire. It's been seen. Eisenhower's done it. Jono's Psychotic Fab, that was where the first time I was introduced to the 8-in-1. They always shot fire, so I was like, all right, well, this thing's gonna come back like the Phoenix. It was killed in fire, now it's gonna be rebirthed in fire, and it'll shoot fire this time.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a goal, was to make it shoot fire.
It is spectacular. I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
Thanks.
I got it in slow motion.
Yes.
So,
right here.
Yeah. That's a fun thing. You know,
Thanks.
now it's just, I mean, the truck, it feels like it's really dialed. Is there any plans forward, or are you just happy running it how it is now?
I mean, the only thought was a while back was like, I probably needed to refresh the engine because it was 5-year-old LS7.
Yeah.
It had been through that wreck and it was still kicking, and I was like, it's just a matter of time, and then ultimately blew it up basically 3 miles after winning King of the Hammer. So it was like, won that race, came home, went out for a photo shoot and blew the engine in a photo shoot. And I'm like, thanks, girl.
Yeah.
Made it through that race for me at least. So yeah, I mean, after putting the engine in it, I don't know, you probably do an underdrive on it, but then I had to change rear gear, and it's a lot of money. And honestly, for my class, there's a couple trucks that are maybe faster than it, but as dialed as it is, I'm not really worried about it. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't. Just keep it as it is and keep on using it and enjoying it. It's never done, but it's at a good point right now.
That's great.
Yeah.
You're a big Jeep guy. What'd you start with?
Honestly, it started with a YJ. It's not a lot of people know this, but a YJ was actually my first vehicle, which is it was an 87 Jeep Wrangler. And I'll never forget, it wasn't my Jeep. My dad said it was my Jeep, but it wasn't my Jeep, right? Because it's one of those things, it was my dad's Jeep, but I got to drive it. And the only thing I wanted to do was be able to tow my dirt bike. So he got me a hitch for his Jeep for Christmas one year, and then I installed it for him. That was my Christmas present, so I could take my dirt bike to the track with the trailer that I didn't have yet. But I had a hitch, and he bought it for me for his Jeep.
From there, what happened next?
Well, I aspired to go out and race. Understanding I could never afford to race, I decided to build a pre-runner. So I bought a chassis. Well, actually, let's rewind a little bit. I raced dirt bikes, had a lot of dirt bikes, sold the dirt bikes, sold a very nice 2008 GMC Sierra Missoula truck that I had aspired to have like my entire high school life. I sold all of that, and I took all of my money and I bought a chassis. And it so happened that Eric Moore, the guy I bought the chassis off of, was at a point in his life where he could afford to come out and help me work on it. So I would get all my parts saved up, and I'd buy parts, and like every 3 months I'd pay him $1,000 to come out, and he would not only work on the truck, but he would teach me as we were working on it, and we finished it that way. Never aspiring to race it. Then I started racing. Because I had this other guy who came along, helped me out with parts as well. He owned a local tire shop. His name was Richard Boyle. Absolutely the biggest influence on racing. I finished this thing as a pre-runner. I'm like, yeah, check it out. Like, he helped me with springs on it because I couldn't even afford the springs. He gave me seats out of his race car for it. Like, they were old seats. It was great. I was stoked to have them. Didn't even have seat belts or anything. I literally took factory Ranger seat belts and stuck it in it just so I could drive it. And he's like, all right, cool, now we're going to go racing. I'm like, nah, I can't afford to race, but thanks. I love that. And he's like, no, you're going to go racing, but you're going to listen to me. As long as you listen to me, I will pay for your races. I'm like, okay, what do you mean listen to you? And he goes, you're going to go out there and you're going to drive around in circles. And I was like, what? I want to drive around in circles. I want to race. Like, I want to go fast. I came from dirt bikes. Like, I was the top rider on the West Coast at the time on dirt bikes. Like, why would I go from racing dirt bikes to driving trucks in circles? He's like, that's what you're going to do if you want me to help you race. All right, well, I can't afford it any other way, so here we go. And 2012, I went undefeated in 1450, just driving in circles. Won 5 of the 6 races that year, and just going around the course. And it was pretty crazy. I'm definitely, I'll never forget that, and I'm appreciative of that. And I try to pass that on to anyone that comes along, trying to bring along that same enthusiasm to help them learn and understand that, like, hey, if you guys want to be involved, like, I'll help you however I can, but you guys got to listen to my advice. Like, there's this and that and whatever, but I'm also not supporting anyone's financial racing, so we're not that at the point yet.
Yeah.
It's been a fun trip.
That's rad.
Yeah.
That's how you started 1450. That's awesome. And I guess let's stay on that vein. So from 1450, is this? Do you race this truck still?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it still 1450 or?
I've raced in 1450 and trophy truck. Depends on like, I honestly just enter wherever the numbers are at.
Got it.
Wherever the higher number is, I want to race against people. So
Yeah.
if there's 4 entries in trophy truck and there's 20 in 1450, I'll race 1450 and be a scumbag. Or if like I'll go race Glen Helen and they're gonna make me race 1450 Pro and there's 2 entries in 1450 Pro, or there's 6 entries in trophy truck, I'll race trophy truck. Like,
yeah.
depends. Race to race.
Whatever. It can do anything. It seems like.
No.
Not anything.
It couldn't win a real trophy truck race.
Yeah.
But it is a top 3 1450 truck that can race trophy truck.
That's awesome. All right, I'm gonna stay on my script here. That was off script. Have you built the ultimate Jeep?
Man, I don't think so.
I don't know. Your Gladiators, it looks like the ultimate Jeep.
And it functions very well.
Yeah.
It does very well at crossing over all the territories, like pre-runner to rock crawling. It's too long. 139-inch wheelbase, so take your average Chevy Suburban and put long travel on it. And which makes it handle well in the desert, honestly. It's crazy. Like, we will go hit Johnson Valley or any substantial wolf section, and you're literally going through wolves at 70, 80 miles an hour. Like, this thing has a solid axle right now. How is it doing this? We don't even know. But, I mean, it was just the basic concept of, like, what I've learned from this thing is just lots of up travel, good size shocks, and, you know, a good sized tire. Like, you get 40-inch tires and that kind of wheelbase with a good shock combo, decently set up with lots of up travel, it's hard for it not to win. So then take it over to rocks, and I drag over everything. I built this 1/4-inch aluminum skid plate for it to go on our last trip. It's completely folded in. I have to make a whole new one, but like, hell, I made it.
Yeah.
So, no, I wouldn't say it's the ultimate. I think that if I was to put like like anything over like 500 horsepower V8 engine in it, it could enter the realm of ultimate Jeep. But till then, it's 440 horsepower supercharged V6, which just feels very strung out most of the time. And I think it needs that V8 swap to kind of enter that ultimate territory. Otherwise, it's just like the top of no one's ever built a Jeep pre-runner, so I'll take that crown.
All right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's the only thing in its space.
It is the only thing in its space. Facts, yeah. Factual.
Yeah.
I mean, there's kits that have come out from like Evo, and there's a couple other people that custom 4 links on them. But they don't make it cycle the up travel, and like they sit donkey high and stuff. So
yeah,
it's just that was the goals, and I definitely think I'm the first one to cross that bridge, but I'm not the ultimate for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's still awesome.
Thank you.
So you have that.
I have an awesome Jeep.
Yes.
It's still a Jeep.
Yeah. So I feel like social media has played a big part on your career in general.
Sure.
Can you walk us through how social media has affected your career, whether it's work or just, building cool toys?
I mean, it's crazy because my work, I don't play into social media at all for my work. My work is completely separate. Like,
what do you do for a living?
I work on cars, and that doesn't play any bit into what I do off-road. Like, it really doesn't. There's no customers that come from my social media that come to my work and pay me to work on their cars. Like, that never happens. They're just average customers. Really, it's just opened the door for like a fun avenue, because this stuff doesn't pay any bills. It gets absolutely ate up by me using the vehicles every year, which is fine. That's all I've ever wanted of it. I've probably had 4 or 5 opportunities to turn it into an income, to where it is my sole income, with different people contacting me, wanting me to do serious top level builds. I've had a guy out of Vegas is like, here's my Defender that I've had a LS9 swapped into and a complete different drivetrain, but I want King shocks on it, and I got quoted $320,000 to have it done. If you can beat that, then you can have the build. And so I could have quoted him like 250 grand and put coilovers and bypasses on it, but I wouldn't take it because I want it to be my fun. I don't want to ever have my passion become my source of revenue. And I'm fortunate because I have a daily job that's able to fund my bills and able to create a life where it's very simple. I go to work and I come home and I work on my projects. Get a couple hours a night in and then some weekends here and there. But also I can take it to work with me and I can work on it in between other projects, which is I'm grateful for all these opportunities I've had. But my shop is just myself and my dad, and we keep it very simple, literally 2 employees. And I have a great buddy, Garrick Becker, comes by and helps me out from time to time, and it really takes up the middleman there. I throw him some money here and there and create the same kind of opportunities I've had created for me, like providing products and integrations and stuff like that with people that he likes to be involved with. And that's cool. Like, as long as I can keep it going, that's where I like to be. I don't ever want to make the off-road space my sole income, but I find it very flattering that there have been opportunities for me to do that. However, it's not something I want. I like to keep it a passion-driven, fun thing.
I agree with that. I think that that's a cool place to be in, to where you have that ability to just keep this fun. You don't have to, because it does eventually. I feel like it would become a job.
Yeah. I mean, Eisenhower's flourish in it. Like, I love those guys. And they're able to take that and turn it into something where they have a dad-son business where it's like them and their dad that run the shop. That's amazing. And that's their dream, to be able to do that. And they've went to the private enterprise and then came back out of it to be able to do that. And that's literally like my dream for them. But it's not my dream, that's for sure. So
yeah.
I'm again grateful to be in the position I am in.
Rad. Okay, well, speaking of fun things, you have 2 IMDb credits, one for Night Train and another for Top Gear America.
IMDb, what is that?
IMDb is where like movie stars and actors and people who produce things get credits.
Oh, really?
Did you not even know you had IMDb credits? That's so awesome. Okay, well, you have 2 IMDb credits.
I didn't even know.
Which means you're a filmmaker. Well, you were a stunt driver for Stunts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm assuming that you got to work on Night Train and Top Gear America at some point.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Well, talk us through. I want to hear about Top Gear, and then I want to hear about Night Train.
It's Top Gear. So I was straight off of like a few jobs with Hoonigan. It was like 2016. We did the Can-Am XR3, or the X3. We did the X3 release with Can-Am, and that was huge. It was my first ever spot into that sort of realm. I got to go drive cars professionally. I had my own production assistant. I had this girl who was like, yo, here's your food, here's your drinks, here's your clothing you're wearing for the day and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, this is serious. I'm just here to drive a UTV. Where's it at? I want to see the damn UTV. I don't care about any of this. And we got to go drive these UTVs for the day, and then I was like, wow, this is actually a legitimate ass thing. I was driving back and forth, just him-hawing about it, thinking it was just gonna be some fun thing, and then I ended up being the entire star of the whole opening X3 debut, because they'd hired Hoonigan to do it, and they brought out 8 people, including me, to drive these cars. Well, they brought out a bunch of dudes that drift cars for a living. So they didn't have any idea how to drive off-road, and what they were doing is they were wadding up the cars. They're literally wrecking the cars left and right. They were just being destroyed and left all over the desert, and the French Canadians were pissed. They were furious that these cars were just getting absolutely destroyed on their first time out, never even being seen before. They're going straight on a forklift and being thrown back into the containers and shipped back to French Quebec. And I was the only one out there that was like, not only A, able to drive him, which I thought they were sick, but B, when everybody else ran back to the trailers, when it was call for lunch or call for the end of the day or like any kind of break, I would go pick up the film guys. There's these dudes just standing out in the middle of the desert. And these guys are just assholes. They're just blowing past them, and these UTVs just hauling ass back to camp. And I'm like, hey, I'd have like 4 dudes piled on this UTV creeping back in at 2 miles an hour, like providing transport. And the people at Hoonigan were like, wow, this guy's really nice. And he's not wrecking the cars. So I kept on getting more opportunities. And anyways, one of the production assistants for that is Ashley Scotto. And she actually was working for Top Gear at the time. And she's like, we got this awesome guy that came out. And he not only like scouted everything and drove the cars well, but he also went out of his way to be a nice person and like help the staff and like help out with the entire production. So like, if I could recommend anyone for this Top Gear shoot, I'd recommend him. So I got this opportunity to go out with Top Gear, and we literally got dropped into Barstow. And I'm like riding around town with the mayor of Barstow, and he's like, all right, where you guys want to shoot this? I'm like, well, I've been to the Slash X before. He's like, we can't film the Slash X. I'm like, what? Yeah, we can't film the Slash X. There's a big X on that area for filming. Like, okay, well, where you guys want to film? Like, we have these few spots off the side of the road where like we think that we could get this shot done at. I'm like, what the hell are we doing? They're like, oh, we got a brand new Raptor, and we're gonna do like, it was the first Gen 2 Raptor in the States, and we were gonna do like a film shoot on it, and like we want to drive it off road. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, let's go see where you got. And I'm not kidding. Like, we just pull up, and he's like, okay, and the coordinates on the map point right over here. All right, guys, this is your 300-foot box. I'm like, okay. I mean, we can make something work here, but like, we were in a riverbed on the side of the freaking 247, and I'm like, this isn't. There's nothing we can do here. Like, it's a 300-foot box. We can't get high speed. I can build you guys a jump. Like, what do you want to do? Like, it's gonna be really stupid. And they're like, okay, we got one other option. We're gonna go drop the mayor off though. It's over in Apple Valley. I'm like, okay. I'm like literally along for the ride. So we go back to Barstow, drop this dude off, and it'd take me all the way out to Apple Valley through the 247 to the like 18, and we go up off. He's like, all right, this is a private property section. I'm like, cool, all right, I think we can make this work. Like, it's actually a pretty big area. And they're like, all right, cool, well, we want to jump. We want some natural terrain features. We want something where we can get into full drive. We want like some silty turns. That's it, like where we can make a big berm explode. Oh, cool, all right, I can figure that out. So we got a spot, and it was, I couldn't believe it, like this. It was hilarious, like, the landowner comes out there. He's like, yeah, this is gonna be the next King of the Hammers. What do you mean? This is gonna be the next King of the Hammers? Yeah, we're gonna race up these rocks up here in these mountains. Okay. Yeah, I know all the guys at King of the Hammers. That's where we're gonna do it. Like, all right. Well, I want to build a jump. Do you have any tractors around here, or am I doing with shovels? I got a tractor. I'll bring it over. Cool. You can see a Segway, but the Segway is twice the size of the tractor. It's like literally a tractor that you can enter your side yard in. And I'm like, what are we supposed to do with it? How high do you want this Raptor to jump? We just need all wheels off the ground. Okay. So I called James Halgen from actually owner of Terra Crew, and I'm like, yo, can you bring your F-150 out here so we can like run some stuff and see what we can jump? He's like, sure, dude, I'll come out, whatever. Like, just help me out with gas or something. I'm like, sure, no problem, got you. And we literally spent like half a day with like no water and a freaking tractor, 3.5 foot wide, building jumps out there, and then building whoops with it, and it was hilarious. And I can't believe that I did that, and I jumped a Raptor. and that's given me an IMDb credit.
Yeah.
Cool.
That you didn't even know about?
I didn't even know about it. I didn't even ever watch the episode. I have no idea what it looked like.
Oh, wow.
No,
well, we'll find some footage. We'll put it up there.
Cool. I actually drove the Raptor for the entire episode. They were actually like, they tried to like church me up as the dude that drives. And I'm like, cool, am I putting like a white helmet on? I'm Stig. And they're like, no, that's not our version. This is the American version. I'm like, oh, who am I supposed to be? Oh, that guy over there is like this asshole stuck up 6'4" skinny dude with long hair. I'm like, oh, do you guys need me to like wear a hat and a wig or something? Like, no, we're not even worried about it. We just need to get a guy out here to tint the windows. I'm like, well, if you want the windows tinted, I can tint your windows. Like, wait, you can tint windows? I'm like, I work on cars every day. I can tint your windows. Like, it's simple enough. Like, what do you need? I'm like, go to Walmart and buy a roll of 5% window tint. I'll put it on. Well, is that it? I'm like, yeah, I got a couple razor blades. I'll figure it out from there. And I took a squirt bottle out of their trailer and some window tint. They went to the Walmart, picked up, and some razor blades and tinted their windows so I could drive their truck for the day. And again, like, I don't even know it got an IMDb, whatever the fuck it is, credit, because I was literally in a blacked out Raptor driving around the desert doing slides, and I hit a jump 3 times.
Wow. Well, they thought that your efforts were, worth the IMDb credit.
No, that's cool. And then for the night train, that was actually really cool. I was excited about that one. That came from doing the whole LACR jump. I became friends with the track owner at that point because he was like, holy shit, I can't believe you hit that in your truck. Like, you gave it absolutely all the beans. I was like, everything your truck had to make it out of that corner. I'm like, yeah, pretty much. But like, I mean, worst case scenario, it would have just like cased it and it would have ate it up. Like, I wasn't worried about it.
Right.
Or I overjumped it and I had to emergency brake into a corner. Like, there was no bad consequences in my head, so I wasn't afraid to send it. And he's like, yo, I got this opportunity to shoot for this company that like my uncles worked for and like all these other things. I'm like, sick, dude. Like, I'd love to do that. But what he didn't know is like, I've done a lot of things. I did stunt driving for a couple Mountain Dew commercials after that Hoonigan shoot. I actually drove for another Top Gear shoot up in Jawbone Canyon after that. It was a really good run there for like a little bit, and then it kind of went flat for a few years, and then it got brought back for night train again. Yeah, and it was cool. Like, I have never ever been on a shoot before. Also, that like they're like, how much do you need to get paid? I'm like, I don't know, like $1,000 for the truck and like $500 for my day, and that's fine with me. Like, I'm like, that's it? No, we're gonna give you $3,000 a day. I'm like, sick. I'm stoked. Like,
cool.
I'm great. Like, totally good with that. And they're like, we'll see what we can get today. And I'm not kidding. Like, I went to a wedding in Palm Springs. You know how weddings go. You never end up great the next day.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're drinking water or booze. Like, you're going to be up too late, or you're going to be hungover, or you're going to be both. And I was both. And I showed up the next day in Palm Springs in September. It was 112 degrees. And I had to drive this thing. And I was like, wanting to make a good impression, but also didn't give a shit about life.
That's fair. That's fair.
It was an interesting day. We had a good time. I didn't know anyone who was anyone there either. So like, I just literally showed up, and they were like mid through filming the day, and I just like showed up, and they're like, all right, cool. Like, hey, we're gonna have you go down and like the gulch over there, see if you could find any kind of jumps or anything out of it. All right, cool. I get in my truck and like puke a couple times, put my helmet on and vomit in my mouth, and I'm driving over there, and then like jump up, and then like, wait, I gotta take a little breaker, need some water. No, I'm not kidding. It wasn't that bad, but it was pretty bad. I was miserable. So we do the shot, and they're like, okay, cool. That was really huge. Like, you went huge. And I was like, I jumped like 3 foot off the ground. They're like, okay, is there any way you could do it again? I'm like, yeah, sure. And I'll actually hit it fast this time. I was just pre-running it.
Yeah.
Like, well, we were filming. I'm like, I know you're filming. You should have been. And they're like, can you do it again? Sure. I did it again, and the truck like jumped like 8 foot out and just dropped driver's side down in the air. And I-beam trucks, that's like the end of the world because the tire swings like this.
Right.
So it's trying to go flat to the ground as you're in the air, not like an A-arm truck where they go out.
Yeah.
So I landed, and it was just like, boop, boop. I was like, oh my God, thank God I hit 4 wheels. And I just kept on going, obviously. And they're like, that was amazing. They were like losing their minds. Like people are throwing clipboards in the air. It was like a scene out of Wolf of Wall Street or something. Like it was like these people are losing their minds everywhere over me doing this jump. I'm like, that was really sketchy. I don't know. Are they cheering because I didn't wreck my shit, or are they cheering because I did the jump? I don't know, but it was sick. And they're like, yeah. So that was great for today. We need you to come back. We'll probably do 2 more shoot days. And wrote me a check right there on the spot and sent me home. I was there for like 45 minutes. I'm like,
wow.
What? So then the next time is, anyways, we went out shooting 2 more times. The second time sucked. Third time was like, all right, we brought our stunt guy out. And I'm not kidding, this dude's legitimate. I don't remember anything about his name or where he came from, but I spoke to friends within the industry, and they know this dude's legit. He's like the best in the world at what he does. I'm like, okay, cool. So he sets up ramps. The ramps are 16 inches wide, and they're 89 inches apart, outside to outside. And I came rolling out. I'm like, all right, so what are we doing? And they're like, all right, you're going to come out this corner over here. You're going to jump out, and you're going to land, and then you're going to go off these ramps. You're going to jump 2 cars. Hell yeah. How wide is that? 89 inches. That's standard vehicle width. I said, this is not a standard vehicle. 89 inches. My tires have 1 inch on each side on the outside. And they're like, okay, so how wide do you want it? I was like, let's go 92. So we got a little bit of buffer there, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, cool. We'll do that. So they kick him out with the tape measure, and I'm like, that's it, huh? All right, let's do it. I go back, and now I'm kind of getting the vibe of the set. Like, I've actually met the people that are in the movie, because I had no idea who was even in the movie in the first set.
Right.
So now I know who the actresses and the actors are, and they're like, all right, we're gonna do this. We're gonna position the cars. Are you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Set them up. They're like, do you need to practice them? No, just set up the cars. We're fine. All right. It's cocky too, you know. Like, I'm never gonna like. They thought I was so cocky, and I'm like, no, I don't need a practice run to set the cars up. Let's get this over with. So they set these cars up, and I come over and I jump over them. They're like, that was amazing. And I'm like, is that it? Did you do it again? They're like, you can do that again. I'm like, yeah, it's a truck. We jumped it 8 feet in the air. Like, it's fine. It's a race truck. Like, let's do it again and make sure you guys got your shot. And they're like, okay, do it again. They're like, that was so cool. You went bigger than last time. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm getting more comfortable. It goes like, you know, it's gonna happen. Okay, all right, I think we got it. I'm like, do you want me to do it again? Because I'm not scared to do it again. They're like, and I walk back over, and you literally like 12-inch wide tire on a 16-inch ramp, 2 inches on each side at 40 miles an hour, and on the gas off the takeoff is a little sketchy, especially when there's like dirt on it and stuff from coming up to the takeoff. Like, you gonna do it again? I'm like, I'll do it again. No big deal. It's like worst case scenario again. Like, okay, the tires drop off and I 50-50 this thing into a bush and maybe clip a corner of a Ford Ranger. Like, it was a Ford Explorer, but I was like, oh, it's not gonna hurt anything. I don't care. So anyways, I did it again. And they're like, oh my God, it was phenomenal. Can you like chase us and then go down the dirt road? Sure, do that. And again, like, it was like a 2-hour day. And they're like, all right, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. They're all so excited about it. I'm not kidding. The main actress, she got her nails, because I was going straight from there to Laughlin to race Rage of the River. And the main actress was showing me she got her nails painted to match my truck as a good luck charm for me to go to this race right after shooting that. Are you kidding me? I was like, it was really cool. And like, they were a good group of people. And literally I shot that, and then I put the truck back on the trailer, and I kept on going to Laughlin, and they wrote me a check so I could go race Laughlin. Like, I was stoked. Like, I was able to go race on like someone else's dime for the first time ever. You know? It was super cool. So
Did you see the film?
yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I went to the premiere and like the whole thing, the whole red carpet. Like, Yeah, it's fun. It's cool.
Well, another deserved IMDb credit
Thanks.
that you didn't know you had.
I feel like there's a lot of better things I've done in the movie studios, movie industry. So it's funny. Like, yeah, the Mountain Dew commercials were way crazier than that, but no one ever even knew about them. Or the Hoonigan stuff, like the freaking all the X3 commercials I've done. Like, there's been like, I was sitting at Supercross watching me on the main monitor do a Can-Am X3 commercial. Like, hey, that was me. But driving a Raptor for some long-haired dude in the desert and driving a couple times. Cool. No, I love it. It's cool.
All right, so there's an entire series dedicated to people not following you.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Don't follow Darren. I'm sure you've heard of it. Why are people not following you, but they still follow you?
Well, it kind of started a while back. We went on a trip, Chris Eisenhower's bachelor party. I have this notorious trip I'm known for. We go Death Valley to Mammoth Off-Road. It's amazing, scenic, epic, off-roadic, like the whole thing. Like, it's truly a phenomenal trip. And the whole reason why this started is we were driving and we'd had such an amazing day so far that we had a bunch of time. And on the GPS, it had Nicholas Mine off to the right-hand side. And there was a trail that went off to it. I said, hey, Nick, would you like to go to the Nicholas Mine over there? He's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. It was terrifying. We were on the side of a cliff with massive boulders all the way to it. We get all the way up to where we thought the mine was. That wasn't the mine. The road was gone. We had to go down and then now through the canyon and then make a right and go back alongside another cliff edge and then make another left and then go drop down. And that was Nicholas Mine. And when I made that right and went along that cliff edge, everyone followed me. Well, they're on the radios like, don't follow Darren. Do not follow Darren, because like we're going along this cliff edge and there's big boulders on the right-hand side. So you're just like leaning towards that like inevitable like 300-foot drop off. And they're all freaking out. And so it ended up only being Dylan Schmiggles, whatever his last name is, and myself that actually made it over there to Nicholas Mine with Nicholas. And we had a great time exploring the mine. But on the way there, it was just like, don't fall there. And then everyone had to back down that cliff edge, and they were all super pissed about it. So then when we got done exploring, we're all having a great time. We showed up, we're like, man, that was so cool. Nicholas Mine, like we were dropping boulders. You wouldn't even hear them for like 45 seconds. Be like, and you'd feel the whole ground shake. You're like, holy shit, that is deep. And we're all talking about it, and everybody's just like, fuck you, Darren. Like, they were pissed because they all had to back down that entire freaking cliff path. So that was when the Don't Follow Darren thing kind of like began. So when I was like looking for a serious name to like start up, like, because as an ambassador off-road or whatever it is that I am, I want to create things that other people can go do and like inspire to participate in. And racing's great, but not a lot of people can do it. So going off-roading though, and going off in these trails and exploring around, that's something that anyone can do. So that was always a thought, like, I'd love to create a series where like I could document these trails and people could go out and explore them and then have a good time and enjoying off-road, because I grew up in the desert. I'm like Ridgecrest between Death Valley on this side and the Eastern Sierras on this side as you're facing north. And I had so much fun just growing up enjoying all the different aspects of off-road. So I wanted to bring that out. And that was kind of a deliverable for me to bring the sponsors to be like, hey, this is something I'm going to be doing. And I had reached out to a bunch of different people for a name for it. And I called up Nick, and Nick's mind is phenomenal. Like, the dude just like, I can't say enough about him. And like, but he is so quick and genius with like his thoughts and his commentary and everything. I was like, I need to figure out a name for this. So I started bouncing ideas off him. I was like, don't follow Darren. That's always what we're saying is don't follow Darren, because they're always pissed off when they're following me because I'm always scumbagging them into something they'd rather not be doing. So that's where the name came from. And that's what we've been doing for the last couple of years.
Amazing now that we know the inception of the Don't Follow Darren. Yeah, I just...
Me scumbagging people. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's great.
And unintentionally mostly, but yeah, it happens.
Well, it seems to be a really popular series. So
it's fun.
That's great. What do you think the most fun you've ever had off-road is? Can you think about that?
Oh, man. It's just the new experiences. So there's different new experiences. And each time it's the most fun you ever had. I think that the most fun I ever had was when I took this thing to Barstow the first time. And actually, you know, Ridgecrest's got the most chopped up, beat up race course in the all existence. So I took the Barstow and we ran on like race course that was fun. That was the most fun I ever had off road. And then put a V8 in it. I went and raced Rage of the River with the Eisenhowers. The first time I ever met them. And we were racing like it was me versus a dozer, like one of the trucks I grew up idolizing on Desert Rangers. Like these guys, I get to go race against them. What? Another most fun I ever had racing off road. I mean, it's crazy to say, but then like another extremely notable one was like, you know, then getting into the more adventure side of it. Like my buddies and I, we on a whim just went and bought UTVs and we went to Mammoth and we went driving Mammoth and off-road and UTVs. Was like, at that point it was 2014, no one taken UTVs up there yet, really. It was like very, very small amount of people have been up there in UTVs. They have perfectly maintained snowmobile trails everywhere. So when the snow's not there, you still have these amazing trails that are just wide enough for, at that time, the narrower 64-inch wide UTVs. And I was like, I'll never forget. Truly, to this day, that stands out as the most fun I ever had driving off-road. We were driving on these perfectly maintained snowmobile trails in Mammoth, and there was like, we didn't even know there was a helmet law for UTVs at the time. That's how new UTVs were to us at the time. Like, we were ripping around with our hats backwards and goggles on, like, this shouldn't be legal. Like, you feel like you're on a motocross track for 100 miles at a time, and a UTV is the most incredible thing ever. And then, like, again, like, I swapped this thing over to 40-inch tires and a properly functioning rear end, and took it out to a couple, you know, these, like, LACR. We went to a motocross track, and I was like ripping around motocross track with all my friends. I'm like, this is the most fun I've ever. So I think it's ever changing, and I think that's the way it should be. And it shouldn't be a single moment that stands out to you more than others. Like, you should always be enjoying the different aspects of it. Like taking the Gladiator out and going out and doing these DFDs, going to Moab, going to Fordyce, going to these crazy trails. Is each time you feel like this is the most fun I've ever had driving, and that's the goal, is to keep on seeking those moments.
Absolutely. And I feel like that's something for off-road. There's so much adventure in off-road.
Right.
So there's so many different ways you can experience just being outdoors in that way.
Yeah.
And it allows you to create all those memories and
it's
stuff.
all the different access points, and there's not one that's better than the other. It's however you enjoy it. I think of it all the time. Like, I have the worst. It's something we all talk about, and it's something I think about so often. I have the worst hobby envy. I'll drive down the freeway with this thing on a trailer, freaking $100,000 Ford Ranger behind my $50,000 Duramax on a $9,000 freaking race truck trailer, and look at the dude with this Toyota Tundra with this freaking dirt bike going out to the desert, being like, man, I wish I had that dirt bike and I was just going to the desert right now.
Yeah.
Like, there's every level of off-road, and there's not one that's better than the other as long as you're out enjoying it.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Well, shifting away from off-road a little bit, your dad drag race. I did a deep dive on your Instagram, you know. Had to do my research before coming here.
Yeah.
Your dad drag race,
Yes.
and he seems like he's pretty successful.
Yeah.
And it looks like you also drag race. What? Like, do you still do that? Is that something that's just in the past?
So I mean, my dad was like a regular weekend racer, like you know, a few weekends a year he'd go drag racing. He went to a Division 7 race in 2001, he won the Division 7 finals, and that was a legit race. Like, we're talking like 15 rounds of racing, and he won the whole damn thing, and he got a gold card from an HRA. And that gold card meant he could race the entire next year for free.
Wow.
So he went out big the next year, and he did really well racing again, and that kind of spiraled his career into where he's at now. He's got multiple championships. He's won any big race that you could possibly think of on the West Coast. He gets to go race every year like this. He's an all-star racer, so he gets selected by different teams to go race for them. And he races Super Gas and Super Comp. And yeah, I grew up racing with him, obviously. We built the 67 Camaro drag car that unfortunately is only notoriety to me racing with Hoonigan, basically. So it's the only time I raced it with any kind of cameras. But realistically, I raced through high school. My grandpa gave me a shell of a car and $5,000 and said, see what you can create out of this thing. So I built the drag car with my dad out of this 73 Ford Maverick, and I won the high school championship that year, and then went on to my dad bought a new car, so I got the car that I grew up building with him. I was racing the 67 Camaro drag car. It was like dream car, 2,700 pounds, 850 horsepower, big block, and I raced that thing for. Man, the only way I can explain it is it was too easy. And it's so arrogant, but it's true. Like, it's all I'd ever understood and done as a child. Like, watching my dad drag race, going to races with him on the weekends. I knew everything about it. I knew all the racers. I knew exactly what to do to the cars. It was his thing, and we went out and did it, and we had a great time. But like I would just win races, and I didn't care. I was only doing it for the money, almost, really, because I was making good money racing these cars. It's crazy. Like, go to a race and like win like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on the weekends, and I was like, cool. And it was like, again, there was no challenge to it to me.
Got it.
I had the best car. I had the dad with all the expertise. I had all the abilities. It was all a head game. Drag racing's all a head game. You get your car dialed as well as you can, and then you just play it. It's all messing with the next competitor. I was really good at it, and I have a few top position championships over the years, like third, fourth, fifth. I don't think I ever got an actual overall championship in racing. I had championship race wins, but I never actually won like a series championship. I won championship races, but not series championships. If that makes sense. So I have tons of trophies from racing drag cars, but it just kind of came too easily. So I really didn't want to chase his dream of being a drag racer anymore. I wanted to do my own thing, and so I just decided to commit financial suicide and start building off-road trucks.
Yeah. That seems what it is.
Yeah,
for
go
everyone.
from making money racing your dad's cars to like just absolutely scraping the bottom of the barrel every month to make your bills for the rest of your life.
Right.
It sounded great.
Yeah.
I don't regret it.
It sounds like he regrets it.
I don't regret it at all. No, not at all.
But the adventure and then the
yeah,
learning.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. I interviewed a lot of people for PRI.
Yeah.
And we were on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And all those guys are circle track, drag racing,
Dude,
like
the blood of the sport.
Oh, yeah. It was awesome.
Those dudes are
but
nuts.
After on all those interviews, we asked them what race car would you have for the rest of your life if you could have one?
Yeah.
And all of them said, I want that Baja truck.
Yeah.
I want a trophy truck.
That's
I want
funny.
the short course truck.
And it's like 1% of the
off-road.
world that even knows about them. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's such a small niche, but it
Yeah.
is so desired. It's crazy.
Yeah. It blew my mind because I was like, wow, this is like everybody wants to do this.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what. It just geographically, you know, you just have to be located in the right spot.
I mean, yeah, again, like we had the freaking one of the huge toter homes with the stacker trailers with all the golf carts and every piece of equipment, spare transmissions, engines, everything in the world to go racing drag cars. And I was just like, nah, good, Dad. I'm gonna build a '93 Ford Ranger.
Yeah. Hey, it worked out.
Did it?
I don't know. I mean, you're here. You got the lights.
Did an interview with AGM.
Yeah. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. The short course, I saw you got to race stadium super trucks. No?
I've raced UTVs in short course, but never trucks.
Okay.
So, yeah, I had a quick little thing. I got to race, what's that series called? It's cool. I went out there and just absolutely destroyed some UTVs.
Nice.
Yeah. They designed it that way, just so you know. What the hell was that series called? It was fun though, because I got to meet a lot of really cool people. Like, I got brought in at the same time that Jeremy Twitch Sandberg, RJ Anderson, Brandon Sims, like all these top drivers got the opportunity to go race these cars. And like, they're like, yeah, Darren, you get to go race one of these cars with them. I'm like, what? I don't even drive UTVs.
Yeah.
I literally didn't have a UTV at the time. I didn't even know I'd seen them, but that was it. Like, yeah, no. Like, we're going to go out here. I'm like, where am I going? They're like, Del Mar. You're going to go race these UTVs with these guys. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm down. Let's go. I'm like calling my friends like, hey, can I borrow your UTV and go spin some laps out in the duster with it? Because I have no idea how to even turn these things on. Like, and so I'll never forget it. Like, I get in this car, and I didn't even know the guys at PRP at the time, but it was their car that they had been allotted for the series, and someone just put me as a driver. And they're like, just don't wreck it. Okay, sure. So I go into get in the car. I never had much of a fear of anything. So I just go straight for like the 60-foot double in the middle of the stadium, and the car just goes and just lands on the roof and rolls like 4 times, lands on its wheels, and I just keep on driving. Landing on its wheels. They're waving me off the track, like getting me over to medical and stuff. I'm like, what? They're like, you rolled like 4 times. I'm like, it landed, it's driving okay. I'm like, no, go take the car over to the mechanics. I'm like, oh my gosh, take it over to them and folded up this entire car. And I was like, how's this gonna work? And they're like, you're responsible for this car. I'm like, sick. I don't have like $2,000 right now, so this thing's like $20,000. And they're like,
yeah,
you're responsible for it. We're gonna put a cage on it so you can go out and run another race, but you're responsible for this car at the end of the event. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just bought a UTV.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm buying it now. Yeah.
Yeah. So we go out again, and it's actually like a qualifier now. And we start. I take off the line. I make the first jump this time. Furthermore, I found that the car had no nitrogen in the rear shocks. The car had 0.5 miles on it. And from the factory, they had no nitrogen in the front or rear shocks on the car. That was why it kicked and rolled like it did. Because I was watching the video, I'm like, I did nothing wrong. I hit it at the same speed as everyone else. Why didn't it make it? And like, it didn't have any nitrogen in the shocks. So we put nitrogen in the shocks when they put the cage on it. And I said, this is your guys' problem now, not my problem.
Yeah.
This MFer didn't have any nitrogen in the shocks, okay? There's no way that I'm going to be held responsible when you guys didn't make sure these cars had nitrogen in the shocks. Anyway, so go out for the next heat. Now it's actually a heat qualifier. And we're doing laps. I'm actually doing pretty well. I'm hanging in the top 5 of like literally like invite only top 40 of the UTV drivers in the world at this point. And then I go off a jump and roll again. So I like went up in the air. I was like, oh crap, I went too far. And I hit the brakes in the air. And it tucked even more, like an RC car would. And landed on the front bumper and just went boom, 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 and landed on the wheels. And I just kept on going. And the doors were wide open. I'm like, I pulled my door shut. The other door's wide open. PRP's pissed because it's like their window nets and their doors and like their seats and their harnesses and the freaking thing. I'm just driving around the arena and the windows. And they ended up qualifying third out of that.
Nice.
So I got to go into the main heat. I start the main heat in neutral.
You got to put it in drive, Darren.
Great. I ended up battling my way all the way through the pack to first place. Oh, no, I was battling with first with RJ. There's no touching RJ. Absolutely nothing on that planet at that time could touch RJ Anderson. I'll never forget driving behind him in second place for a couple laps and watched him intentionally bike the car in the corners just to make it over humps so that like the car wouldn't react. Like he would literally just give it a little bit of a twitch and just two-wheel it over the hump into the corner. I'm like, I'd like hit the hump and just go way to the outside of the corner and bounce off the walls and just like, it is incredible. Anyways, I ended up getting third in that race. It was pretty cool because again, like I was racing against the best in the world at the time, and I had no place being out there. That was all my experience. So short course racing UTV. And furthermore, they set those courses up for us to fail.
It doesn't seem like they don't. Every time I see one of those UTV short course tracks, I'm just like, these are like they're designed to crash.
Yes.
Like the jumps are like they just want you to crash.
They do.
Yeah.
They want us to wreck. Like,
Yeah.
There's no part of that. And it's like they're trying to make good TV.
Yeah, it's not
But
a
it
driver's
backfired
course.
on them because like they couldn't even use the footage of me rolling the car a few times because like they didn't want players to look bad. Because the car was like, instead of the cage being like, the cage was like all forward and like made into an oval for me rolling it so many times. Because the second time I rolled it, they didn't replace the cage. They said, all right, this is your car now. We're not giving you another cage.
Wow.
So I ended up taking that car home. I had to go buy a trailer in San Diego because I drove my motorhome there.
Yeah.
I went and bought a trailer for $1,500 and I put the car on the trailer and I took it back home.
Nice.
And I had to basically figure out how I was going to afford it or sell it. So I bought a factory cage for it, and I literally ratchet strapped the car straight because it never hit hard. It just was like easy rolls, or it was just folding up this like fence post cage on it.
Yeah.
And so I just put another cage on it and then put it back together with new plastics. I had to buy all the plastics and stuff, which isn't something that was easy to do at that time.
Yeah.
But I got all lined out and I ended up selling it to a buddy enough to cover my costs. Like I was like, hey, like they're gonna charge me $10,500 for this thing. It's a smoking deal for a brand new. It's got 16 miles on it.
Yeah.
If you want it, you can have it for when I'm into it. Like, you know, I sold it to him and he paid the dude and he never got the title for it. And then it disappeared. I don't know where it went. It's probably in Mexico. Having a great time.
That's awesome. That's crazy.
It was wild.
Will Severson.
Yes.
You know Will.
Yeah.
He asked me to ask you about the time that your truck blew up and you took the most unreliable tow truck to bring it home.
This thing is that photo shoot.
Oh, that was on the photo shoot.
Yeah. I literally come out of a corner at like 4,500 RPMs. Didn't even earn it. Didn't even earn this engine blowing up, and I just absolutely sawed the freaking LS7 in half. Like, through my daily oil pan, everything just completely grenaded. And I called my buddy. I'm like, oh, I have a flatbed tow truck in my house. Have him go get it and bring it over. No big deal. So I sent him over there to get it, and my buddy comes out. We sat out in the desert. We heard the truck out there for probably 45 minutes before it even got to us because it was dead silent. Not even a freaking breath of air in the air. And we're sitting there and it's singing. And it'd start up and like he would make it like 25 feet and you just hear him out. Like I'm talking like a quarter mile out. Motherfuckers, come here. You just MF in this truck out in the middle of the desert. And I'm like, I wonder what's going on with it. I was like, what did I change on it since the last time I drove it? I was like, well, one of the gas tanks had a bunch of rust in it. So I put a pre-filter because it kept on clogging the filter on the carburetor. So finally he made it over to me. And I'm like, I wonder if that pre-filter's clogged. The truck would idle fine, but as soon as you hit the gas pedal, die. So I'm like, the bowl's just not getting filled with fuel in the carburetor. So I had it idling, and I rolled the bed back, dropped it, winched this up on it, dropped the bed back down. And at that point, I had access to the fuel tank. So I'm like, let me take a look at this fuel line. Oh, yeah, the filter's completely clogged. So I spin it apart, take the filter out, cleaned it out with some high-pressure water bottle, and put it back together. And like it was fired right back up. And like we're like pushing the bed the rest of the way forward, and I go put the thing in gear and it dies. I'm like, shit. I go start it again, and the battery's so low it won't start now. So now we had to have a buddy like come out there and jump start us out in the middle of the desert. Get jump started. Started driving it home. It clogs the filter again as we're driving up a hill in traffic, and I had to like pull off to the shoulder. There wasn't enough shoulder for the tow truck to even fit, and I'm like rolling the bed back on it so I get to the fuel filter so I could freaking clean it in traffic on the side of the road. And it was apparently this is a traumatic experience for someone from the city, but realistically it just was a Saturday night. Like we made it home.
This is standard for you.
Right. It was only like an extra 2 hours worth of BS we had to deal with. We made it. And it got the job done. How else would I have gotten it out of the desert? No, I had to get a trailer and a normal truck. That's too boring. We had a flatbed. 89 flatbed Chevy truck. Like,
it makes sense to me. You know, I get it.
It's pretty ridiculous he would bring that up.
Yeah. I'll talk to him. I'll let him know.
Okay, thanks.
Hoonigan this versus that.
Yes.
Tell me about how did you get hooked up into that? I think you mentioned a little bit, but how did you get into the Hoonigan world, and how was filming this versus that?
So yeah, again, I've been with Hoonigan since like 2015 or 14. I had been a friend of theirs since like 2013, but actually working for them since then, and it's like a few time a year projects. I'll do like location scouts for them. I'll do anything from like art director, which I had no idea that art director carried any swag, but apparently it's a pretty big role. I've had that role a handful of times with them. And basically like, even like with RJ's like jump cuts that we did, like those kind of give me a blank slate and say, hey, what can we make of this? So I was like, with knowing that they had that full confidence in me, I kind of brought up the idea of like, hey, like, we're doing this versus that. I've been brought up for a few different episodes of that. I've probably done 10 episodes of this versus that normal, like, street racing. I'm like, why don't we do this off-road? Because Nick Eisenhower and I always had the envision of doing, like, basically a straight rhythm for off-road trucks. And I was like, why don't we do this? Like, we race trucks side by side through a pretty basic off-road course, and we can run a bunch of different genres of vehicles. Well, when they got purchased by Wheel Pros, I was like, hey, it's lining up. Like, this is something we can do. And then even further, then Wheel Pros bought Full Parts also. So I'm like, all right, now it's like, we got to do this.
Yeah.
So I kind of was like pushing on them a little bit, like, hey, we should do this. Finally, like, all right, hey, we got to prove, like, let's do it. Where can we do it? I'm like, well, like, I could do it out in Ridgecrest. I can lock down some property and we can do it. We can set up a course. We can leave it out there, whatever. And they're like, all right, let's go do that. So I did. I locked down 98 acres of land in February of this year to build a course and do this. And on that 98 acres of land, there was a landing strip. Perfect. Go out there, make our course on the landing strip. It's flat. And we can have like a really great base for this. So they hit me up the second weekend in May and they're like, hey, we're ready to go. We're looking to do this end of June, July. I'm like, you're not doing it in Ridgecrest then? Well, why not? It's all approved. The budget's approved. We're ready to go. You have the property. Yeah, and it's like 110 degrees. You guys won't make it. Like, we will have people dying out here. Furthermore, you can't even keep enough water in the ground to make a course out here at that point. Yeah. The ground's too hard. We had a window that was amazing from all the water from this winter to build an epic course. And I told you guys, like, we should do this. Okay, well, we got to do it. Okay, well, You're going to do it out here, so you better figure something else. What else would you do? Go find a motocross track. They have the equipment. They have the property. We could lease like a section. Talk to like Lake Elsinore, Paula, something like that. So they did. They talked to a few different places. And they're like, hey, so Fox Raceway is going to give us the base of their gravel pit. I'm like, as in where they're on bedrock? What do you mean bedrock? I'm like as in they've dug down enough to make a bedrock and there's nothing but boulders under that. So that you can't dig down anymore. You have to import dirt to make a track there. Okay, yeah. No, that's what we got. Yeah, that's it. That's it. What is it going to cost to make a course there? I said, you're talking like a few $1,000s per freaking load of dirt. And you're building it for someone else. Like, they're going to keep that. They'll be able to use it. You guys need to find some private property. So one of my friends, James Haljan, was like, yo, I got this spot in Temecula, and we could do it out in Temecula. And I'm like, sick, dude. Let's do it out in Temecula. So we went to his buddy's private property out there, and I kind of stood up on top of the hill with Brian Scotto, who's like the creative director for all three brands, and he's like, guy, this is it right here. We can make the run in and like drops down, tabletop, drops down again, another big single, big whoop section, and then like a 300-foot flat out finish. And that's what he had envisioned and we had talked about. I was like, this is where we can do it. And so we walked it a few times, and yeah, we did it. We built it. And it was like literally just like shooting from the hip the entire time, which is, I work great in that environment. I'm really great at like last minute connecting dots, making things happen. And we ended up lining up 36 drivers to come out there for a week. And I coordinated some more friends through Tara, through James and Tara. We had Sean out there from 212 Land out there build us a course. It was freaking sick out of the basic layout that we had. Ryan, the property owner, was amazing. He let us do all the changes to the property and didn't complain about any of it, as long as we like made him something cool at the end, which was awesome. So I literally rolled out there, my motorhome plugged into the dude's garage, and we spent a week out there, and we created 17 episodes for a new series called This versus That Off-Road. This dude would come out before the end of the year.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Are those all out? No,
before the end of the year.
Before the end of the year.
They're going to be coming out end of this month.
Awesome.
Start coming out. That was what we spoke of then, but I don't know what's happened since.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's a really cool. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, and like the matchups, like in true this versus that fashion, isn't like pre-runner versus pre-runner or race truck versus race truck. It's like mega truck versus pre-runner, and like mud bog racer versus trophy truck. Like just like the most off the wall comparable matchups you could ever think of.
That's so cool.
Miata versus Samurai, like everything. We got a freaking extremely entertaining list. I was blessed with the opportunity to create the matchups as well.
Yeah.
After being able to invite all of my friends out there to come out there and participate, it's going to be really cool. I think everybody's going to really like it.
That's cool. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Is there any stories you want to tell?
I mean, it's like we can go like series of tragic events. Like I got my left arm cut off. I've died before. Like all those things. But
I mean, if you want to get into that, I'll listen.
I feel like there's like a certain drive that's came from those. So I feel like it's something that has always pushed me to want to do more. It's just kind of being the underdog aspect of it. Like,
sure.
I mean, like 7 years old, growing up in my dad's tire shop, I was helping put some tires upstairs and went to grab a piece of wood that was stuck in the roller out of the conveyor belt, and it took my arm, and it just literally ripped off my left arm completely.
Wow.
And it's made it to where I don't like have a forearm muscle anymore. My wrist doesn't work right. I can't pick up my wrist with my fingers in or put my wrist down with my fingers. Like it's really messed up. I can't pick it up like this at all. Like,
wow.
It's just really weird. So it's like a lot of different. It's never hindered me or anything. Like literally the year after this happened, I was still playing. I literally went straight into playing baseball again and still made like the all-star team and went to championship tournaments and all that stuff. So it's never something that really affected me, but it's always been like I don't like feel for anyone's bullshit. when they have excuses. Not because I feel like I have any kind of disadvantage or advantage, but just the fact that like you can either find excuses or you can work towards results like that you're seeking. And I feel like having those, yeah, that incident, and then when I was 17, my dad and I were out on a Father's Day dirt bike race, and I wrecked, hit my head, and it actually killed me. They paddled me back to life and put me in a helicopter, and I was in a coma for 38 hours. And I came out of a coma. It was like really weird because when you're in a coma, you really have a good sense of what's going on around you. So like, just to come out of that and be like, all right, cool. Like, I'm glad my brain wasn't bleeding. And they're like, wait, what? Like, yeah, I heard all your conversations. Like, I knew what you guys were talking about.
Whoa.
Like, it was pretty crazy. I get the room. Like, I spent so much time laying there and just thinking of the room. Like, I had the entire layout of the room pictured in my head. Like, where people are sitting, where the doors were, where the TV was, where the window was. Like, I had everything pictured in my head. And, like, it's a pretty crazy experience to have that going into your senior year of high school. I wasn't allowed to do much of anything at that point, right after that, because head trauma and stuff like that. So again, like it's a pretty eye-opening experience. It was a very humbling experience to have that. Like I felt like I was pretty unkillable or impenetrable to that point. And I was like, all right, cool. Like that's how precious life is. I think it did a couple things that it gave me an appreciation, but it also like left me with a sense of calmness over death also. I think I have a really great understanding of death after that, and I don't really ever get emotional over death anymore, which is kind of hard to deal with friends and stuff, like family that's passed over the years since then. Like I just don't get kind of spiritual about it, and I get kind of like to the point where like I don't know, it's a couple things have definitely shaped my output into my adult life, though, is having those couple major life instances happen as a kid. Obviously, as a kid that grew up racing dirt bikes and stuff, like broken bones and being in a hospital a lot was all part of it.
Of course. Yeah.
But to have those couple big incidences like that is pretty good level, good base to keep your thoughts off of as you're going into being an adult. I don't know. It's been interesting though. I think it's made me want to work harder though.
Yeah, I could totally understand that. You know, you now have that drive from those experiences to accomplish your goals.
You're right.
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
Other than that, yeah, it's like thanking my sponsors. No.
What does racing mean to you?
Racing is definitely the reason why we do want to do all this. My best place out there would be to coach someone or help in the pits.
Is that something you're interested in doing?
I would do it if I had someone that wanted it.
Yeah.
But again, I don't get many people that approach me in that aspect because they think I am busy because I have a young family and I'm taking on a lot. But I would love to make time for that if someone really wanted it, for sure. But no one's ever approached me wanting that. But I do think that it would be a fun opportunity to take. And that's something I'd love to provide from having the people that have helped me. I always want to return that into the aura of off-road. Like I had so many people that helped me in the beginning. I'd love to help other people if I could in that respect, for sure.
That's very cool. I like that.
I mean, it's what we should be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, this sport is very communal.
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Darren.
No
I appreciate your time. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
That was awesome.